Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help you establish your author brand, increase the size of your audience, and sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here with Jeffrey Poole and Joe Lalo. This is our last show for a while where it's just the three of us. We're going to start having some guests coming on next month, January, for those of you listening to this before the end of 2014, which is like tomorrow. Today we're going to kind of talk about I guess we're going to do some predictions of what we think is going to be happening in this year with indie publishing, what some of the marketing trends are we think are going to be popular, and we're also going to share our own resolutions. So if you're reading this in the future, you can check up on us and see if we actually went through on it, or if it's like that treadmill that sits in the corner of your bedroom with all the clothes draped on top of it. One thing we kind of, excuse me, got a little bit of a cough today, so. It's really great to have to mute yourself while you're doing the introduction. That's cool. But you know, it's December. You're not really supposed to be healthy. But so we're going to kind of talk about. There have been a couple of really great articles published lately. Well, there was one in the New York Times that was okay, but then Catherine Rush did a big one on kind of like what indies learned in 2014. And if I remember, I'll put the link to it in the show notes so you can check it out. But it's just the gist is that kind of this year with Kindle Unlimited and just overall with big five publishers kind of figuring out like to lower prices on entry books into series and older backlist stuff, that it's become more competitive, a little tougher for the indie author to it's like you can't just lower your price to 99 cents and rely on that for marketing anymore. So I think that's what we're going to talk about in our trends, kind of addressing some of the things you can be thinking about in the new year, what you can do to do marketing, and what's going to be helpful no matter what happens. Things like KU, they're going to happen. There's something every year, it seems like, that changes the playing field. But the old strategies seem to continue working, just trying to build a mailing list of your fans, maybe using some free book one or some free work to get your name out there and attract people. But yeah, I think I've blathered on here. So, hi guys, do you want to say hello?
How's everyone doing? It's been a hell of a year, hasn't it?
Certainly has.
Yeah, I can start off here. I'd see. So we're talking about predictions and resolutions. Well, I don't have many predictions when it comes to the ebooks, but I was sitting back and thinking about the whole Kindle U thing, and I would make a prediction that if it continues to do well, I would say it's going to force the other guys to do the same darn thing. But I think there's probably going to be more of a time frame involved. So I would say probably late spring, early summer. If Kindle U is still doing really well, I would say at least Barnes and Noble, who I feel is trying to make a comeback anyways, they're probably going to come up with something similar. And if they do that, I think that's pretty much going to force Apple to do it as well too. So I see more of these subscription programs popping up here and there just so everyone can be competitive with everyone else. So that's my prediction anyways. Other predictions on this.
Well, let us talk about your first one first.
Okay.
Joe, do you have any thoughts on Kindle Unlimited and other shows, other subscriptions?
I believe in subscription services. I mean, I use Netflix. I think everyone does. It's almost mandatory at this point. And Spotify and the like. So, like, it's clearly a method that works very well for consumers. So it should work well for books. And Kindle Unlimited is certainly the biggest, most obvious one. So I think that you're going to see a lot more stuff roll out, like Jeff says. Other people are going to imitate it if they haven't already. I don't know if it's necessarily a good or a bad thing, but it's here to stay because it's disruptive. And whether you like it or not, disruptive stuff changes the whole playing field, and when things get shaken up, other people try to jump on the bandwagon. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that prediction that Kindle Unlimited, even if it doesn't prove to be incredibly successful, is going to have at least a few more imitators over the year of 2015.
I agree.
See, what I'm wondering is how successful it actually is for Amazon, or if it's kind of a loss leader thing. Because now that I have my pen name in there, and the payouts are like $1.30, $1.40, depending on the month, and I know some of these readers are really voracious readers and probably reading 20, 30 books a month. So, and they're only paying $10, and then the authors are getting paid $40 for that. And I assume it's kind of like a gym membership where not everybody who signs up really ever goes or uses it very much. But I guess I'm wondering how profitable it is for Amazon, and there's no way for us to know. But I don't know. My gut feeling is now that they're probably not making much money, and they might even be in the loss every month. I feel like it was their response to Oyster and Scribd, and I think I haven't used either of those programs, so I don't know a lot about them. But I think Oyster actually has more of the big traditionally published authors in it. And I've heard that complaint from people who have dropped out of Kindle Unlimited as readers, is that it's almost all indie books. And I know they get some traditional published books by not making those guys go exclusive. But I'll be curious to watch it, and whether you like it or hate it as an author. I know it's definitely a good opportunity for people who read a lot, and the $10 a month is great for them.
Yeah, it's a good point because authors can complain about how Kindle Unlimited is treating them, but it doesn't matter how much authors complain about something. Amazon won't change based on how authors feel, but Amazon will change if they start eating their own pie. Like if Kindle Unlimited becomes really very popular with readers, so much to the point that they stop buying books like at normal price elsewhere, and it starts biting into the bottom line, Amazon might actually change their tune, I suppose. So it's a good point to say that if Kindle Unlimited is too successful, then it might go away.
Very good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be curious if Barnes & Noble actually comes up with them. I feel like they've just been kind of behind the curve for years, and they're kind of riding on their success in the physical book franchise business for the last 20 years. They just seem kind of clueless.
Yeah, see, that is my other prediction, though. Did you notice, though, they actually contracted with Samsung, and they now have a new Nook, essentially, a new Nook tablet. That's all HD and everything. So it makes me think that they're starting to channel more money into developing the ebook stuff again. So I'm thinking, since they've come up with their own new Nook, I thought they were dead in the water, because I noticed my sales in Barnes & Noble started dropping a little bit. But they came up with a new tablet now. I'm thinking if Kindle U still is around in a couple of months, they're going to be forced to do something similar. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
All right. Well, we'll have to check back on this show when we do 2016 and see if any of us had a clue.
But that was pretty much my two predictions I have was about the Barnes and Noble and the whole thing. So if someone else has any more predictions, fire away.
All right, Joe, do you want to go next?
Sure. As I said, I agree with the Barnes & Noble and/or Apple trying to roll out their own book subscription service. I've noticed that Apple has a tendency to jump on the bandwagon usually a long time after the bandwagon left, and only when they can find a way to make it sort of uniquely theirs. So if and when Apple gets on with the ebook subscription service, or really any subscription service, it's going to be only when they can make it like deeply integrated into the Apple's OS and stuff. So if it's going to happen on Apple, I think it's going to be way down the line, and it will be sort of just infrastructurally different than anyone else's. But I think that both of them are going to have some semblance of at least a competitor for Unlimited, if not a direct ripoff of Unlimited.
Let me guess, when they release iOS 9?
Yeah, I mean, hey, iOS includes iBooks built in, so I mean, they clearly are starting to they take their books seriously. So I could see them sort of rolling in a subscription, like you can maybe in the future you'll be able to subscribe to Apple, and then you get like iTunes and all that stuff. Who knows? But that's
like
a much
Amazon
bigger
Prime, but like an Apple Prime, so you can just, no matter what you're doing, you get for a set fee, you can have all the access to the books, to the movies. I mean, I would sign up for that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Amazon got in on the Apple bandwagon by having their own app store. Only it's for Android, obviously. But I mean, so they could be taking cues from each other. Who knows? So yeah, I agree with that. That there's likely to be some Apple and Barnes and Noble competitors, or Kobo, or really any of the other storefronts.
Right.
But I also have a prediction. Kindle Unlimited is being gamed, and we know this. Like, there are people who are making the randomly generated books that are 10 pages long, so as soon as you open it, it doesn't matter to the reader that if they open it, it's gibberish, but it's a full purchase because it was only 10 pages long, and therefore the first page was 10% of the book. The readers don't care. They're not paying extra for that. Obviously, the authors care because that's $1.30 or so that they aren't making now because it went to Mr. Gibberish Creator. So I think that Amazon's eventually going to have to address this issue or any other issues that spring up around Kindle Unlimited in order to try to at least keep authors from running away from Kindle Unlimited, which is sort of already happening. But my prediction regarding that is that whatever change they make is going to end up being like surgery with a hand grenade. They're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It seems like any time Amazon tries to fix something, the first change they make turns out to be a big problem for everybody. And then it's Band-Aids on Band-Aids until they come to a solution that sort of evens things out. So I'll bet there's going to be at least one Kindle Unlimited repair scandal sort of thing that happens next year.
Interesting.
I could see that because there's been times where like they change something and they tell their tech support people in India so that when you email them, you get this pad answer that's just copied and pasted and has like nothing to do with your actual question. That seems to throw everybody for a loop and everybody gets punished for a little while.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it's like an ecosystem. Amazon is like an ecosystem, and Unlimited is like an alien species that's come in and is upsetting the balance. And as a result, they're going to introduce their own little predators to try to fix that out, and that'll screw up the balance too. Everything's very delicate.
I would think the easiest thing would just be to make it like on a short book, the whole book has to be read, or instead of just doing the 10% thing, because 10-page book, pretty easy to get to 10%.
I was discussing with my brother, and he feels like a full read should be a full read, which is tricky because sometimes there's back matter that nobody's going to read, and then they could read through 95% of your book and you don't get a purchase. But he was like, yeah, it should be 100%. I think maybe making it 51% would be better, because then you'd have to put a 2-page book out there, and I think people would notice a 2-page book a lot faster than a 10-page book. And also, or just maybe have percentage and page minimums, like 10% or 25 pages, which either is least or most. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe I'm one of the only few that when I get ready to buy an ebook, I'll actually look to see what size it is just to get an idea of how long the book is. I mean, if I see something that's like 10 kilobytes, I'll be like, don't think so. Not for that price, or else even if it's free or part of the subscription thing, you're like, there's something up with their book that small. If it doesn't say short story, there's something up. But that's just me.
I know there are certainly people that do it.
I think a lot of this is in the nonfiction sphere where it's more common to get those little kind of white papers or 10-page reports, and people put them up as ebooks. And if the information's really good, then maybe $2.99 is perfectly legitimate price for something like that. But yeah, and then I think the average consumer is probably not looking at the kilobit size, or even, and some of them don't even say an estimated page number. Most of them do, but I've seen ones where it doesn't.
The computer tech in me apparently still surviving.
Of course, they could just have a really big cover art and have a big file with 2 pages of text.
True.
That would be hilarious. Like, these are the highest definition cover I've ever seen. And yeah, a picture's worth 1,000 words, so they could just put like 9 other pictures in there. Fill it out to a couple more 1,000 words.
Yeah, I think Amazon will figure that out pretty soon, though, and I'll be curious if they're going to keep giving the sort of preferential treatment to people who are in Kindle Unlimited, in that each borrow counts for a sale right now, in regard to calculating your sales ranking and where you place in the categories. That's been really helpful for my pen name. There's if it was just based on sales alone, it wouldn't have stuck in the top 20 for that subgenre for as long as the books have. So I'm glad I'm able to finally make use of it. I probably won't sign up for Kindle Unlimited with my main, or KDP Select with my regular name, but since nobody cares about those, it's been fun to experiment. But I think we talked about it before, how right now you get credit for a sale even if the person never opens the book, even if they never get to the 10%. You only make money if they get to the 10%. You only get credited that. But as far as the algorithms go and increasing the visibility of your book and having a better sales ranking, any borrow right now seems to count. So that's why if you've noticed your stuff fall off that's not in KDP Select, that's probably why.
Yeah, I think that Amazon, who takes their algorithm so sacred, right, always, I think eventually they're going to have to, when it becomes clear that the top of every list is flooded with KDP Unlimited, well, Kindle Unlimited stuff, I feel like people are going to start to ask questions, and Amazon will have to make their shift. Because a similar thing happened with Smashwords once. When Smashwords first did pre-orders, they had it set up so that if your book was on pre-order, it was on the front page of Smashwords. It was right at the top. And as a result, the entire front page of Smashwords for a couple of days was just pre-orders. And it quickly became clear we can't give that level of preferential treatment to pre-orders because it will ruin it for everyone else. So I got to believe that Kindle would come to the same conclusion if it becomes that prevalent.
I saw that on Smashwords, and I remember being kind of ticked about that because as a reader, everything I clicked on, I was like, this is coming out in 3 months. I'm like, I'm not going to buy it now. I'm looking for something to read right now. But I do remember seeing that and thinking, wow, those people are really getting an advantage right now.
Yeah, it's shifted a little bit now. I think they only show up at the top when it's like a pre-order only shows up on front page now, I think, when it's within a certain range of its release, like within a few days or something like that. I know pre-orders still show up there, but I know that it's not, wall-to-wall pre-orders anymore.
Okay, can we jump off topic for a second? Because now that we've been talking about this, I'm curious how your pre-order went of your latest space opera. With the I kind of saw on Amazon, but I know with the other stores, those actually count towards your helping you on opening day, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, let me on this other window here. I'll pull it open. Amazon. It turns out I don't really know how exactly Amazon ended up with ranking wise, because it certainly spiked a bit, and they gave me all of those on my dashboard. All of the pre-orders showed up as a sale on days 1 and day 2. But it certainly wasn't all of them showing up as a sale for ranking wise, because as you pointed out, I would have gotten into the triple digits if that was the case, and I only got up to like 8,000 or so. But I know that right now, by Apple's ranking, or at least it was this morning, my new book was my highest ranked book, and it was outranking my free ones. So I think it really, and I'm going to double check just to make sure. Yeah, it's still number 1. It's still my top ranked book. So I would say the pre-order really jazzed my my iTunes ranking. I can't tell exactly what my iTunes rank is because that's not how their website works, but it's beating out both of my free books right now. So it's got to be doing pretty good in their ranks.
Congrats, man.
Thank you very much. I didn't get like the sales numbers for December did not apply on Smashwords yet, so I don't know exactly what kind of money it translates to. But I guess I might as well throw up Barnes & Noble too to find out how that is. But the rank helped. It didn't seem to really like lead to a huge leap in sales, but high rank does not always result in a leap in sales. But I definitely felt like it was useful. Again, if I was just looking for a high number, and I kind of honestly, I'm weird like this. I kind of liked getting all of the money all at once on Amazon, just to have one really good month as opposed to having that trickle in over the course of a couple of months. It makes me feel good about me to have a day when I made a couple of $1,000s or something like that.
We'll be looking for you in the Porsche in the end of February then.
Yeah, seriously.
That's not what I spend my money on. I spend my money on magnetic poetry and such.
All right, we'll be looking for the life-size dragon plushie then.
All right, that is going to happen.
You won't say anything, just one day we'll see it back there by the TV on the video, just a giant.
I'll ignore it. Like, oh, no, never mind, doesn't matter.
All right, well, it sounds like some people might want to maybe do that, maybe in the coming year. Do the pre-orders, especially on iTunes and Barnes & Noble, if they're going through Smashwords. Can you, I don't know if you can do it draft to digital. I think they also allow you to do pre-orders. But maybe hold back on Amazon unless you just happen to want to get that big payday right there on opening day. But as far as affecting getting in the top of categories and stuff, maybe it's better on Amazon just to wait and try to get your mailing list and everybody to buy it the first week.
Yeah, I would say that the diffusing the sales numbers across a couple of months on Amazon doesn't help out, but it clearly helped out a bit on Barnes & Noble and Apple.
Definitely
Cool.
going to try that.
Well, do you have any more predictions or trends you think will happen in 2015?
The only other thing I can say, and this is sort of agreeing with one of the articles that we sort of went over before, is that as things have been getting more difficult, I think that we're going to more and more see, at the very least, we're going to see more people complaining about indie writing as opposed to like bragging about it. There was no end of articles in the past about people talking about how indie writing is the way things should be done, and now you're going to see more and more articles where it's like, why is indie writing so difficult, and how come they were making it so hard for us? So we're going to see a lot more of that, and I think we're going to also see a lot more quitters. I think there's going to be a lot more people who are like, this isn't worth my time. And as I was saying before the thing started, I really hope that happens because that'll thin the herd a little bit for everybody else.
Cruel to say, but yes.
Yeah, sometimes I almost feel lucky that I never had like some huge bestseller hit that just, kind of, sometimes you see with other people that it'll catch in the algorithm. For some reason, this particular book is just appealing to the mass market, and, you've got somebody that's never written before or never published before, and they're just become a huge seller, and kind of based on having a blurb that's really appealing to a wide variety of people, having a great cover and having a good story, which are all things we should aspire to, but sometimes we don't all write really popular kind of stuff, and I don't know, I've never had like a huge seller like that, so I never had any false or unrealistic expectations. I think for some of these people, they just thought it was always going to be like that, and they're finding out now as they release subsequent titles that maybe book 2 or the new series it doesn't take off like a rocket like that did, because we've got more competition in here. We've got the traditionally published authors are playing with pricing now, so it's not always the indie books that are cheap. One of the gals we're going to have on in a couple weeks, Beth Cato, had her first steampunk book traditionally published, and I noticed that it started at $9.99, but now that her second one is available on pre-order, her publishers dropped the first one to $1.99. And I'll have to double check with her, but I'm pretty sure that's a Big 5 publisher. So I don't know if that's probably not a permanent drop, but they're getting wise. They're not just everything's not $15 anymore. So
they're paying attention to what the indies are doing too. That's clear.
Yeah, there was a thing I was thinking about. I had said earlier when I was interviewed one time when we were talking about covers, I was saying how one of the tricks is that you don't have to necessarily be the best one out there. You just have to look a little bit better than everyone else at your level. And that's sort of true of everything. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be a little bit better than everyone else at your level. And what's happening now is that everyone else at your level is beginning to include traditionally published people. So being a little bit better than everyone else is now basically trying to be the best. It's one of the reasons things have gotten so sharply difficult in the past in the past year or so.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more cases where you really do need to have like 8, 10 novels out before you've gathered up enough of a fan base, enough of a following that enough people are going out there and buying your next book so that it does spike on the charts and maybe sticks up there for a while. So probably the one-hit wonders from 2011. We're not going to see so many of those. I mean, there's always going to be exceptions, but you can't count on it. I think if you want to be successful, you're going to have to really think of it as a career, and it may take, like I said, 10 novels before you're really starting to make some progress. All right, was that your last prediction?
Well, that's my last prediction, yeah.
All right, I think mine are all kind of marketing related, so
well, good.
That's what and they're really just based on what I'm starting to see now as a person who hangs out in the forums and stalks everyone and sees what they're doing. But my first one is I think this was kind of the year of the bundles. I've been in 2 or 3, 4, I'm not sure how many at this point, and where everybody kind of takes their first book, maybe it's perma-free or not, and puts it in a bundle with 10 or 15 other authors and makes it 99 cents or even free. And I think that will still happen, but I think what we're starting to see is those bundles aren't making the New York Times bestseller anymore. I think that they've kind of changed the rules a little bit or made it a little harder for that, which kind of makes sense. 99 cents for 10 books probably isn't the same as a John Grisham book that's selling a bazillion copies for $15. Shouldn't be weighted quite the same. But I think that what we're kind of seeing is readers are just buying the bundles and not necessarily going on to read a whole lot of the book 2s from all the authors. I still think it's useful. There is some of that, and I'm still waiting to see on this one we're in, Joe, if I get many sales from book 2. I think I'm pretty far back in the bundle, so I figure it takes people just a little bit of time to read over 1,000,000 words of epic fantasy. But so that's one of my predictions, is maybe less bundles of existing books, but maybe more anthologies of new stuff, just because it is really effective to have like 10 people all promoting the same piece of work. And if you have new stuff, and some people are already doing this, but if it's all new stuff, then your list is going to go out and buy it if it's the characters they enjoy and love, as opposed to being like, well, I already read that book, but I guess I could try out these other authors. So I do think we'll still see bundles, but I think they might be less effective going ahead and more focusing on anthologies of newer works.
I look forward to. I agree. The original work anthologies are if they aren't going to be more popular, I hope they become more popular, because overall I think it's better for the reader, and it's anything that encourages you to produce more writing, I think is good for the author too, because I was invited to write something for an original work anthology, and I immediately was like, oh, excellent, and like I had to like plan out what I was going to write and immediately started taking notes on it. It sort of got me excited about a new project. Not that I'm not usually excited about stuff, but it was another new project to get excited about. So I think it's a good thing for both readers and writers to have the anthologies of new stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, it just helps when you're, because most of the time, like when I'm looking for bundles, I'm looking for, see if there's any names I recognize, and if I do, it's like, okay, well, maybe I have read that book, but okay, if that book's bundled in with all these other ones, and maybe it's on a similar genre, so give some of these other ones a chance, and I found some really good authors that way. So yeah, I would agree. I think the bundles probably will start. Maybe there won't be as many in this next following year here, but it still works. I don't know. I think there's going to be just less of them because I think more and more people are trying them and going, okay, well, either they're working for me or they're not working for me. But me personally, I'd be more willing to try a few just because I enjoy the collaboration, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and it is pretty exciting when you get a chance to be with like 10 other authors that you know sell really well too, so you know your stuff will be exposed to their readers and vice versa. I've just definitely noticed in the also bots for all these bundles that the also bots tend to be a lot of other bundles, as opposed to, maybe on page 3 you start getting to book 2 of some of the authors that are in there. So I think that they can be effective as part of a marketing plan, but probably gone are the days where a bundle is going to make your career. I know that's something that kind of happened, especially in the romance genre early on, that there were some new work bundles where people they took off. They were, New York Times bestsellers, the bundles, and then those authors gained audiences just based on that, and suddenly they were able to make a part-time or full-time income really early in their career. And I think it'll still help, but I think you'll see less of a bundle that actually makes that much of a difference for you. But anyway, moving on, you'll probably see the theme of my trends and predictions is there's just more working with other authors. That's something that the indies can really do. We can do bundles really easily. We can play around and do promotions with other authors and lower our prices. That's one of the tough things for traditionally published authors, is they don't have that control. So they have to get permission if they're going to be in a bundle or something like that. But my next prediction, I was trying to see this in the romance genre. I don't know about fantasy so much and science fiction, but kind of more co-authoring schemes, I guess you might call it, where you get like 3 authors that are sharing one pen name. And so each author will publish something under that pen name every 3 months, say. But what that ends up, you end up, cycling it. So every month that author pen name has a new release. So it's, it kind of goes with the fact that it's a lot easier to build up a fan base and gain some momentum on Amazon if you're publishing something every month. You get to take advantage of always being in that, 30-day new release thing, and possibly gaining an audience and following more quickly. So I don't know how well that's working for the ones I've seen so far, but I think that's kind of going to continue to be a trend, is people either joining in on a shared world kind of thing or just sharing a name and trying to publish something frequently.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that, where in this case, you have 3 different authors all writing as the same person, same pen name there, like along the same lines, maybe the same story, maybe writing different chapters. I mean, that would be interesting. And it's to see the different style of writings, how they all pretty much following along the same, in the same setting. So that'd be interesting.
I'm familiar with shared world stuff. I've never really considered. I still, in a lot of ways, I'm sort of unfamiliar with the tricks of the trade. For a long time, I didn't understand the concept of a pen name until people I know started using them, and I started researching it. But the idea, I just know that I have a way that I tell stories. I've had a hard time. I've tried co-authoring a book, and it's still sort of in the works. But that was, co-author. There was going to be 2 author names on there. The idea of trying to sort of homogenize my style with somebody else's and even a third person's, so that it's not blatantly clear that this was an edition written by Joe, whereas that one was an edition written by Jeff. It's interesting. It's almost like that. That would sort of be a fun challenge to sort of grow as a writer. But yeah. I do like the idea of sharing a setting, because sharing a setting is cool, and then you can have parallel threads within the same setting, and then that series can become popular. And I've sort of thought about that in the past, and I've seen other people do it, but multiple people sharing the same pen name is a new idea for me.
Off topic, real quick, something we might want to suggest or consider maybe on our website, the marketingsff.com thing. Something that I was one of the Goodreads club thing that I used to be a part of there. One thing we did was we started a story, and then those that felt up to it could maybe write a chapter or write a few pages, and then the next person could pick up that same story and write a little bit more. And just there's no set plot or anything. You just write what you felt like doing, and then that person, once you stop, the next person would take up and say, okay, well, I'm going to make this character now do this. So it'd be interesting, possibly with the 3 of us, maybe try something like that. Just as an experiment.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me about collaboration, which, often it's been the case of somebody who has no books out, like, hey, can I co-write with you? Like, yeah, sure, go away. But I'm so in love with my characters that it's hard for me to imagine sharing them with anyone else. I do think that science fiction and fantasy has just a long tradition of the shared world, and that's something also that would be more appealing to me as a writer. And, it'd be interesting. I think there are definitely people that will go out and buy a Dragonlance book or Forgotten Realms book, no matter who the author is, just because it's a Dragonlance book. Or, I don't know, are they still publishing those? I haven't picked one up in a really long time. But or the tie-ins to the comic world and the movie tie-in kind of books. Like if it's Star Trek, there's however many bazillion Star Trek novels written by a bazillion authors, and some people just pick them all up because it's Star Trek, and so they don't care who the author is necessarily.
Yeah,
I think go ahead. Sorry.
I've heard a lot of. I was reading an article a while back, and they're saying there is a tremendous number of who are now very popular authors of original material who got their start in the book biz by writing an extended universe novel in Star Trek or Star Wars, because again, didn't matter what author's name was on the cover, Star Trek was on the cover, so people would buy it. If it turned out that they liked it, then the publisher would have the confidence to give that author a chance to do something original. So there's certainly a history of this in just the actual traditional publishing.
Right. Of course, as indie authors, though, we can't just go write Star Trek. We have to make up our own world. And I've watched a couple of authors put together these things, and so far I haven't seen anybody really knock it out of the park yet with these. And so maybe it's just waiting for a few authors that actually have a fan base already and could really get this off the ground. But then if you did have something like that, the potential to automatically have buyers, even if a new author was invited to come into the shared world, it's could work someday. I'm not sure if it's something I'd necessarily be interested in. I guess I'd have to see on the project, but I think that's interesting. I think the pen name thing would be tough, but I could see it where you either have something where everybody has not a whole lot of, quirk and flair. I always feel like it'd be hard for people to maybe mimic my style, and for other people that have a really pronounced attitude or personality that's in their writing, it would be hard to mimic that. So I think you would, in some cases, with some authors, the fans would be like, this book is nothing like the last book. What's going on here?
Yeah. You sort of need like a full-time editor who could sort of even out the voice of each novel.
But on the flip side, if you think about it, this is how all television works. There's a team of writers. I remember really watching, I was never a vampire person, but I got into Buffy the Vampire Slayer just because Joss Whedon was so good at writing dialogue and his characters were just, you just cared about them. But I could totally tell as a viewer, like around season 4 or something, when he'd moved on to Angel, I think, at that point, and I was like, yeah, these guys are trying, but the dialogue is not as snappy. It's not as good as it was. But I don't know, if you had somebody that had a lot of personality like that, and then the other writers tried to sort of mimic the voices of the characters, I don't know. It's like I said, it's something I'm seeing people experiment with. I don't know yet if it's going to be a blockbuster, but it is one way. I feel like you do have to put out content pretty regularly in order to, if you want to think about making a living doing this right now. For most people, I mean, every now and then, like I said, there's people that just not luck into it, but they're in the right genre, the right time, the right place, and they have a good book, and it really works out. But it is hard to duplicate that. So I think if you want to be a full-time indie writer right now, you probably have to be pretty prolific. All right,
Sorry
last
for that
prediction.
tangent.
No, that's okay. It's staying on topic. What's that? We don't even have a very firm topic this time, so people are just here to listen to us ramble. My last prediction is that I do think, amongst all this change, that it's still going to work to have to use Wattpad and some of these other sites to build up a fan base by putting maybe your first book or some of your work out there for free. I think one of the reasons I haven't been so affected by Kindle Unlimited and these things is part of it is that I have a lot of books out now, but part of it's, like I said, I never really had a huge success anyway. I've just kind of been plugging along, building up a fan base gradually over time. So there were not like big highs and lows, and there still aren't right now. My sales rankings are down on my older series, but I'm still able to do pretty good with new releases and that kind of thing. And I think, just what's always worked since the beginning is kind of having some free stuff out there, on Wattpad, or having a free book out there, as I did with my pen name, which I wrote some big blog posts about it, and I can put links to those, but they did pretty good, and the basis of that was just having the first book free and promoting that first book. So I think it's harder to keep a free book out there and have it really continue to get a lot of downloads month in, month out, year in and year out now, because there are so many free books. And with Kindle Unlimited, there's more, like the people who used to surf the free book category, they don't need to anymore, because for their $10 a month, essentially everything enrolled in Kindle Unlimited is free. But it definitely can still work to kind of jumpstart your early releases.
Yep.
This is a controversial subject, isn't it? You have a lot to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have to, again, I have 2 series with a free series starter, and both of them are doing better than any of my stuff that's one-offs. So generally speaking, the stuff that I've been doing from the beginning has certainly been keeping me afloat. I'm not as prolific as some other writers, although when we get into the resolution portion, we'll talk about how I'm going to try to change that. But I definitely agree that if it worked in the past, it will still work. It just won't be as easy because other people are making that work for them too.
I would agree.
Right. I think you really have to kind of pay attention and be willing to change, and if you can use whatever is working, that's kind of like, I like jump onto Kboards every day. I hardly ever post there, but I just want to see, is there some new thing that people are doing? And that's why I decided to jump into Kindle Unlimited with the pen name. I was like, I'm going to finally see what's going on here and see why all these stupid KU books are outranking my much superior, of course, books. Maybe not. All right. Enough blathering about our predictions, so we share our resolutions, and you want to go first with that, Jeff?
Sure. Mine's an easy one since you two are the professional writers. My goal, my resolution this year is I'm going to do everything I can to turn pro. Because right now, as I've mentioned before, I wear 2 hats. I've worn it for the longest time would be the computer tech hat, which, don't get me wrong, it's a good job. I set my own hours, but yeah, it's boring, it's monotonous. You do the same thing day in and day out. How many times must you go into a client's house and say the reason why your computer, your monitor, your printer is not working is because your surge protector's turned off? it gets old. So I'd like to turn pro this year as a writer. So, and that means for me is I need to sit down and and write more words a week, and essentially reverse it where I'm spending more time doing the writing, and then when I feel like it in the free time, maybe take a couple tech calls. So that's my goal. So this means for me is I have to be more consistent. Like right now I've pretty much devoting 1 day a week to doing the writing. Well, I'm gonna see if I can devote a few more, or even a few more. Just try and get a routine down so I actually and stick with it so I can produce X amount of words a day, that sort of thing. Not a big goal, but it is for me.
No, that's good. I wish you a lot of luck with that, and I think it's good that you already have several books out and you're thinking like that. What we were talking about ahead of time is like some people, all right, this is my first book, and you know what? I need to become a full-time writer because I make no money right now, or I lost my job or something, and it's just, all right, you need to. I mean, every now and then people are so inspired and so motivated because they really do have to make it work that they can, but I just think that that's not going to work for most people. But you've already built up a fan base, and so for you, it probably is just a matter of kind of getting more books out there.
More books and just writing more, and when I park my butt in front of this desk, just start working and see if I can get up to 7,500 words a day or maybe 10,000 words a day, because I know I can do it because I have done it before. So it's just a matter of removing all distractions, which for me that would be difficult because I'm the type of person like ooh, shiny object, and instantly off the story and looking at whatever just walked in the door sort of things. So for me, it's possible. It'll be hard, but it's possible. I can do it.
Yeah, one of the cool things too about doing when you work from home is that you can live maybe, and not everybody wants to move, but you can choose to live somewhere that has a lower cost of living. So it might be more possible. I don't know, Lake Havasu, that's kind of retirement area, or?
It's retirement central here, hence the computer tech thing where the people don't know essentially how to turn the computers on. Why is the printer not printing? Well, it's called paper. You need to put something in. Oh, I'll be damned. Okay.
Well, it's definitely something I think about every now and then because I don't have any big ties anywhere. I'm like, I look over at some, places and like, wow, I could buy a house for cash there. Whereas, I came from Seattle originally. It's like, oh, I think I might have to save up for 10 years just to have a down payment to put on a house.
Oh, trust me, I used to live in Tacoma, so I'm well aware.
All right. Well, is that your main resolution then? Anything else you wanted to?
Main resolution. No, for me. That's a pretty solid one. It's a pretty big one, and I'm gonna do my damnedest to make it happen.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's very motivating too, I think, when you hang out with other people who are doing it. And I find just listening to the other podcasts with authors that are doing well and putting out a lot of words every day, that helps me I feel like a slacker if I'm not putting out words every day. So I don't know, I guess it's kind of like having a mastermind group on your iPod or iPhone or whatever.
So I just know there's of my Wednesdays, which is usually my writing day. There's times when I would be lucky if I get like a couple thousand words there, but there's been times when I've got all the distractions out of the room. I've got my can of Pepsi right over there. I'm ready to go, and I can do pretty much close to 10,000 words easily. So I was like, I know it's possible. It's just I have to get more into routine and make sure I'm getting more organized. So I don't okay, so my mind is distracted easily. So I've got to make certain no internet, no computers, no cell phone, no nothing, or no radio, not even a radio, or else nothing happens. Nothing gets done.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it before, how there's people I've talked to who have to have a special writing computer that is not hooked up to the internet. I think that's not a bad idea.
Seriously, it isn't. Like, okay, well, let's see, what word do I want here? Let's check the email. Well, as long as I'm in email, let's go check to see what's going on in the news websites. Okay, let's check it. Pretty soon, half an hour's gone by, and I haven't done anything. So,
Totally
trust
know
me,
the
I've
feeling.
seen
All right. Well, Joe, how about some resolutions you want to share?
I got a few. I want to increase my release schedule and therefore my word count. I so far been averaging about 2 books a year, and it's not really 2 books a year. It's 1 full-size book and 1 nano project a year. So I want to increase that by at least, I don't want to put a number on it, but I want to do more than that. So let's say more than 2 books next year. And to do that, I want to get my word count up. When I quit my job, I went from as many words as I can write in a day to at least 3,000 words a day. That was my shift. In the new year, I want to try to get at least 3,000 words in my primary manuscript, and at least say 2,000 more in other projects, or 5,000 total combined between everything. So like, I just want to incrementally build up my word count in that way, and hopefully, if it doesn't cause my writing to suffer, then I can sort of like an exercise routine, add a few more and a few more and a few more until I'm consistently doing somewhere in the 7,000 to 10,000 range. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that. We're going to shoot for 5 first. I also want to experiment more with my prices. As this book that I just released is $5 or $4.99, and it has not been a tremendous failure at $4.99. So I want to find my new level and see if I can safely move away from $3 as my primary price point to something a little higher up, which would hopefully, if not lead to more income, just sort of lead to a more comfortable, like, I don't need to see the sales numbers to keep myself afloat. I'm okay with making enough money. I don't need to get rich. But I would much prefer to not have to live and die by going over 100 sales a day or something like that, as long as I was just making enough money. So I want to experiment more with prices. And like when the price changes, if I start high and go low, or start low and go high, that's going to be a thing. I want to get, as we all know, it's over there, I've experimented a lot with big merchandise that hasn't really panned out yet. And I'm going to continue to experiment with big merchandise because it's fun. But I also want to try to do just some mid-level stuff like bookmarks and postcards, because I go to a lot of conventions because I like conventions, and the only thing I can bring with me to a convention is paperbacks, and that's a pound of paper that I'm carrying around with me if I want to hand it out to somebody. Plus, it's rather expensive to hand those out. So just sort of having a stack of postcards or something would be a lot friendlier. I could sign them, you know what I mean? So having that stuff available to me is something I would like to do. And the other thing is to be more consistent with the products I offer. Right now I have paperbacks, but only for the 4 main books of my fantasy series. I don't have any paperbacks for sci-fi. I don't have any of my one-offs or short stories as paperbacks. So I want to make sure that if I have something available for any of my stories, I have it available for all of my stories. That would mean, at the very least, doing paperbacks for my other stuff, and possibly, if I can make it work, doing audiobooks for my other stuff. So that's my stack of resolutions, and in a year we'll see how close I get to the bottom of that stack.
All right, yeah, I have audiobooks on mine too. Right now I have my first 3 in my Emperor's Edge series on audiobooks, and I got derailed with that when the narrator just got too busy to continue on, and I tried a second narrator, and I just ended up not thinking it was really professional enough, so I just kind of bailed on that. I ended up having to pay for it, but never put it out there. So I'm going to go try ACX and put some stuff out there and just have the people audition for it. The main reason I haven't is just that I know you need to kind of listen to it, proofread, listen to the entire novel, and so it's not like it's a no time kind of thing. But
Yeah,
I
that
do.
would be time consuming.
Yeah, but I do hear from people now and then that are actually making, pretty good extra income from their audiobooks. And my first 3 are all free on Podiobooks as well, so I don't think they really sell a whole lot on, like at Apple, you can see the free Podiobook version, so why would you go spend 20 or 30 bucks for the basically the same version that doesn't say chapter 1 or doesn't have the little introduction like a podcast has? But so I definitely need to get more up there because I've heard people are, maybe not making, well, every now and then somebody's making really good money with audiobooks, but even if it's like the paperbacks, even if it's a couple $100 more a month, that's nothing to sneeze at. It's one of those things you do it once and then it's an asset that you can continue to make money from down the road. So that's definitely on my list. Something else on my list is to redo the covers on my Emperor's Edge series, which I've finished this series a while ago, and I've kind of been just going, I've got the free book out there, so it always sells some, but I've been working on other things, so I haven't really been focusing on marketing that. But it's an 8-book series, and most of the books are $5, so when they're selling well, it's a very noticeable boost to the old income there. So my plan is to redo the covers because right now they're stock art. They're okay. I don't have anything bad to say about them except they're not really hugely representative of steampunk or epic fantasy. It's not one of those ones where you would look at them and say, ah, yes, of course, that's a steampunk book or epic fantasy, whatever. I think somebody said, I've probably shared this before, they were like, oh, I thought they were historical Indian novels the first time I saw them. I was like, oh, that's just what I'm going for. Great. So, but it is a big investment to get new cover art for 8 books, and I just struggle with really finding artists that I like. Sometimes I'll see them do awesome work for other people, and then I'm like, hey, can you do something for me? And what they do for me, I end up being kind of not that enthusiastic about. So it's tough. Cover art in fantasy is tough. But so that's one of my things. Sometime in 2015, I'm gonna get new covers and then kind of try to relaunch the series. Throw a bunch of ads at the free book one again and see if I can get things rolling. It's cool that with ebooks or any book you write that it's something that 10 years from now you could still potentially be making money from something you wrote today. So even though you're more excited about the new series, why not throw some ads at the older series now and then and try to still get people into it and make some money that way. Another resolution for myself is that this is maybe a lesson to other people, perhaps, is that I have started so many series in this last year since I finished my kind of flagship series, trying to figure out what the next big one was going to be, that I now have all these series that I'm like on book 2 or 3 of and in the middle of, and some of them are more profitable than others. Some have done okay, and others that if it was just a financial thing, I might not write any more in them. But the problem is that your readers will still want them. I talked about before my Flash Gold series, which is just novellas, so they don't make a lot of money. I still have people are like, when are you going to write the last one? Is it coming pretty soon? And I don't have the heart to say, these don't really make that much money, guys, so I kind of want to put my writing time into something that I know can make money. But so one of my goals for this year is to kind of close up some of those series that I haven't been as diligent about doing, and then just have 1 or 2 going forward, maybe 3 with the pen name stuff. Fortunately, I'm prolific, so I can't actually get enough books out that doesn't sound so crazy. But like if you have 5 series going at once, tends to be a little much, and you tend to have to go back and reread the first books before you can start a new one. Whereas if you're just working on the same series, everything's still fresh in your mind, so you just kind of boom, 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 get them out there. And my last...
That would make a good topic for a future podcast. When you're writing multiple series like that, how do you keep everything straight?
Yeah, or maybe the topic would be multiple series. Should you write multiple series?
Yes or a no to do this. Pros and cons.
Yeah, and then some of them are not even the same genre, so it's lots of fun. All right, and my last thing is just I tend to be like many writers, a classic introvert. It's not in my nature to reach out and want to work with other people and start projects. But I really think that the people who are willing to do that, to spearhead a new project, and whether it's a book bundle or a new anthology or something I participated in just the other day on the 26th, I jumped on board with a bunch of other. They were all romance authors, and so I was kind of like, well, I have a couple that are kind of romances, so maybe I can get in on this too. But everybody was making a book of theirs free for at least a couple days. And on the 26th, we all emailed our lists with this big list of 50 free romance books. And some of them did end up being science fiction, or I had my steampunk love story thing in there. Most of them were contemporary romance. But, I got about 2,000 extra downloads that day of that particular book that was free. And usually you got to buy an ad for something like that. And even then, the ads don't necessarily pay off that well. And basically, all I did was email my list, which I was going to do anyway, and say, hey, here's 50 free books you can check out. Go download them. And we had 50 people do that. So that's why some people, probably the more contemporary romances got more downloads than the fantasy and sci-fi stuff. But I was happy with the 2,000, and maybe some of those people will go on to buy some of my other books and enjoy the series.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I want to try to be less passive on that kind of thing and actually maybe, if not organize, at least maybe I can find the person who will organize things and do the hard work. So, like I was saying in my predictions, I think the networking with other authors is really going to be helpful for people going forward, and especially if some of the easier tricks for doing well on Amazon are not working as well as they used to. So that'll be my goal.
It's a good goal. Yeah, I was thinking too when we were talking about the bundles earlier. If nothing else, even if a bundle is a miserable failure, it adds 15 or 20 names to your Rolodex, and like these are people you've worked with before, and you know who was a good contributor and who wasn't. So building your network is very, very useful.
Absolutely.
We all know that, but I think as writers, and so many of us are introverts, that's just against our natural tendency to, like, hey man, what's up? You got anything new out? Hey, let's put together a bundle. All right, well, you guys have anything else tonight?
I don't. You've covered my few little piddly predictions and my one resolution, so I'm good here.
Yeah, I'm pretty well. We covered my list and we hit the hour, so overall I'm happy with what we've done.
All right, well, hopefully something we talked about tonight will be vaguely useful to someone. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good 2015.